Welcome to the Business Insider podcast, supported by Lise Sales Rep, an Inc. 5000 company, helping our clients grow sales by generating qualified leads, guaranteed appointments, and contracts for their businesses across the U.S. with our outside and inside sales teams. Our podcast is intended to share some, interesting information with C-level decision makers across the country, but also sales reps, VPs of marketing, and the like. And today, we have the honor and privilege to chat with John Buckley, who, if you don't know who he is, it's an Instagram sensation influencer. I'm not sure if he's on the TikTok, but I know that he's definitely all across the social media platforms, particularly in the watch world. And some of you who know me and follow me know that I'm a watch guy. And obviously John is an expert on Rolexes and watches in general, but a lot of content around Rolexes in general. And we're going to talk about what John does, but also about Vookum. John Buckley is the managing partner of Vookum, and we'll talk about that. And also the owner of Tuscany Rose, that's been around for over 20 years. John, we're going to talk about watches. But John,
Okay.
thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
Looking forward to getting into some of the details and of what you do. Talk to us first about Tuscany Rose, given that's been around longer, and then kind of dovetail that into Vookum and kind of into mix how you got into the whole watch thing, right? Fascinated by that, and I'm sure the audience wants to know more details on the Rolexes and all that. We'll get to that in a minute, but
Sure.
go ahead, John. The platform is yours.
Thank you so much. My company, Tuscany Rose, we actually began probably in the mid 90s. I still have my Tuscany Rose registered eBay page that was registered, I believe, in 98 or 99. That's where we started. Tuscany Rose, the name was was thought up by my wife. And the whole basis behind it was that we wanted a watch company. I was doing the original Tuscany Rose was Tuscany Rose Watch and Diamond, and she was doing the diamond end. I was doing the watch end. I was, we were both very green, and the watch end was what really started taking off towards the mid to late 90s.
Mm.
And I started the story is it's out there in a lot of different places. We are on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and a lot of these stories you'll see me answering questions based on a lot of these questions that come to me. It's usually the same thing. How did you get started? And the way we got started, I was in social services, and I remember leaving my house in Brooklyn, and I would go to my parking lot, which was a couple of blocks away. That's the New York type thing. Your parking lot isn't, when you live in a brownstone, your parking lot is as close as you can get it. Mine was like 4 or 5 blocks away, outdoors, with a lock and key, which was not very pleasant. But I'll save that for another podcast. Walked downstairs, it was recycle day, and I'd always been interested in watches. And I looked down and I saw a couple of catalogs. They were Antiquorum catalogs. One of them was like a big, thick catalog. There were 2 or 3 of them there. And I was like, oh, wow, they were right on top. They were clean. And like I said, it was my neighbor's recycle. So I was like, okay. So I grabbed them and I took them to the office. And eBay was just starting out at the time. And a friend of mine had, given me, this wild, like new online, service called eBay, where you can actually run an auction and you don't have to be there to watch it. And I'm like, wow, wild, holy cow, And I wound up putting the catalogs on, and one of them sold for $40. And this light bulb popped off in my head. I was like, free money. So my mission at that point was to, get as many catalogs as possible and post them on eBay and, sell them for as much money as I possibly could. And for about 2 years, I was the only one, doing this on eBay. And we sold so many catalogs. And I came up with, a portion of, the first house that I bought in New Jersey by doing that. And I was married in 98, and we had my son in 2000, and we moved to New Jersey in mid 2000, September of 2000. And I was working actually for the YMCA of Greater New York. And I had a really good position there. And I was able to make my own hours, do my own thing. I was running a mentoring program in Bedford-Stuyvesant at St. John the Baptist Church. Mm. And it was too much driving back and forth. I was in like South Central Jersey at the time. And I said, you know something, I'm going to give this a go. And I was doing IWJG shows. And in the late 90s, I met up with a person who was selling Rolex boxes at the time. And he had a box on a table. And I was like, oh, how much is that box? And, you know, just to give you an example how long ago it was, it was $30. And I was like, oh, wow, do you have any more? So he takes me to his car. I bought another 10 boxes, 8 or 10 boxes off him. And I started selling those. And from that time on, we met pretty much every week. And I was buying all kinds of watch parts, boxes, all kinds of things.
So this was the side hustle for you because you were working, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was my hustle. And when I moved to Jersey, I was there maybe about 2-3 months. Mm-hmm. I had my position at the YMCA, and I was looking for a job in social services in New Jersey. And I interviewed, and I was very close. And I remember that in New Jersey, I did not graduate from college. In New York at the time, you could run social service programs without a college degree. It was a whole other world. I was running welfare to work programs for the YMCA and a couple of other agencies. I was supervising like 8 different agencies at the time. And in New Jersey, it was a different story. So I was going to have to go back. I was have to get certification. I was get this. And I said to myself, I said, you know something, let me just try doing this watch thing. And the rest was, you know, I don't want to say the rest is history, but the rest was, you know, how I really like dove into it head first and started really, really investing a lot of time and money into it. And it's done well for me. It has. I remember in the early days, there were not chat groups or, you know, social media. The social media at the time was the Vintage Rolex Forum, Time Zone, WatchNet. I think there was another one, Turfers. Then there was a great forum, BJ's Online Forum. And that's where we all met each other. Me, Eric Koo, you know, a whole bunch of the other, you know, Joe DeMacy. I mean, a lot of the older players had either, you know, had been on those forums, or they, you know, they were, you know, they had representatives on those forums. And that's how we all met, you know, selling on eBay, doing the, you know, the forum thing. And you know, that's how we made money, you know, and that was my main hustle at the time. And for the most part, it was a lot of fun. You know, we started doing different trade shows, NAWCC, IWJG. And as time progressed, you know, we just made it our family business. You know, my wife is the bookkeeper, and I'm the managing partner, I guess. She's the founding partner because she came up with the name. And background on the name, in the 90s, I remember saying to her, you know, we want to start a watch company.
You mean Tuscany Rose, not Vookum, Tuscany Rose. Okay. Yeah.
And I said, I don't want it to be one of these, you know, any kind of a play on words that has to do with watches. I want it to be something completely generic, but that still had some kind of, you know, oomph to it. And she came up with Tuscany Rose. And it took a long time. There was a woman down in Australia that had the .com, and I couldn't get it at the time. And we're going back early 2000s, in the early days of the internet, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Use a Rolodex.
You know something? I still have a Rolodex somewhere with a lot of numbers in it. I used to have big cardboard pieces of paper with everybody's number. I'm one of those guys that, you know.
Yeah, you remember the card catalog in the library? You remember that?
Yeah. The Dewey Decimal System. I mean, I go back there.
Yeah, me too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like you know, you do what you have to do in order to make business happen. And I remember when I started doing eBay, I was Tuscany Rose on eBay. And I still am. And I was speaking with eBay the other day, corporate, because we consult here and there. And they were like, wow, you still have your original, your original screen name. I was like, yeah, I've had that account. You can see since I think it's registered 98 or 99. Yeah. Something like that. And that's kind of rare. You know, I still have my same PayPal account for 20 years. You know,
Wow.
a lot of folks have issues, but we always kept it, you know, as above board and clean as we could possibly keep it, because that's the way we, you know, that's the way we operate.
Hmm.
And you know, we wanted something that, you know, was going to have legs and last. And fortunately, knock on wood, I don't have any wood over here, but fortunately it has. And we're, you know, we're pretty happy with it.
That's awesome. You had shared a couple of things here, and I want to clarify for the audience that the IWJG, I believe, is the International Watch and Jewelers Guild. Is that right?
That's
IWJG, International Watch and Jewelers Guild. Also, the NAWCC is the National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors. NAW. We're going to put these things in the show notes so people can get the links and they can, you know, click on it and see it. Those things.
mm-hmm.
Anti-quorum, which John mentioned a little bit back in the discussion today. Anti-quorum is Antiquorum. Antiquorum is a auction house that sells a lot of auction, a lot of nice things. Not only watches, they have other stuff there too, but a lot of watches.
Mm-hmm.
Major player in New York, in London, Japan. They do a lot of auctions of nice high-end pieces, but also you see some lower-end pieces there.
Yeah.
Have some rare stuff, and they still do the catalog.
Mm.
They still actually have a, you know, you could right that you could flip through. I'm more of a flip through kind of guy. I like a book with pages,
Yeah.
like a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the grays kind of tell you why, right? You know, gray hairs can, you know, kind of go back to old school, right? That's right. That's right.
I'm glad it's there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah. So, obviously, you've been doing this for a long time, and how you started basically a side hustle, and then it became your hustle, right? What you do on a day-to-day basis, pay your bills, you know, to live your lifestyle. And obviously, it's done, you know, done well by you, which and good for you. So, from a training perspective, some of your videos obviously show you in a what looks to be a clean room with like gray bubble walls in it. I kind of wonder where that is. Right. Oh, there it is. There
There
it
you
is.
go. That's tab.
Right.
That's
Is
this
that?
is
Oh,
where
that's an app. It's not. Is it? It's not. It's an app. It's not real.
it's a the
Oh, it's a
laboratory.
lab. Oh, it's a lab. Okay. So some of your videos show you, you know, taking apart a watch and putting on a new crystal, things like
Yeah.
that. You know, maybe replacing the crown. So, have you gone to like, you know, watch makers training, or you're basically self-taught?
I did it. I am not a watchmaker by any stretch. I am barely, you know, I would not, if I were servicing a watch, if I was sending a watch in for service, I would not want me to have to do it. That said, if they're my watches, I will work on them, just because there are times when you can't get to a watchmaker or you have to do something really quickly. You know, I've had these situations over the years, and that's where you know, this all came from. There are times when you have to switch out a dial. You know, there's times when somebody comes over and they have a busted crystal, or they need a crown, or you know, a rotary's popped out, or you have to learn how to do the basics. It's like changing a tire on a car, okay? But it's a lot more technical. And I learned through a friend of mine who is a watchmaker. He forbids me to mention his name, AAK Viper. But you know, we would sit down in my office and he would show me the basics. He's a very, very accomplished watchmaker and a top collector
Mhm.
in the world. And I learned how to do it just by doing it. And I would work on, you know, busted up dials and messed up hands. And I mean, I am one of these people that services a lot of watches. And I have had very, very expensive dials ruined by the best watchmakers.
Mhm.
And there's nothing you could do about it. You know, there's no recourse. If you have a one off dial and you
Mhm.
hand it to somebody and they screw it up, usually it's when they're removing the dial. And I've always said that, you know what, if anyone's going to mess up a $50,000 dial, I'm going to mess it up if it's mine. And that's what I do. I mean, I get guys that'll, you know, stone dials, you know, lapis, tiger's eye, malachite, that kind of stuff. The stone dials are very tricky. And if guys don't, you if they're not familiar with their little, idiosyncrasies, you can really screw up one. I had one of my best watchmakers take a tiger's eye dial and just obliterate it by tightening the screws too tight where the dial feet go. And at that point, the dial at that point was maybe a $10,000 dial. Today, it's probably $40,000 dial. And from that point on, I always said, you know what, if I'm going to remove a dial, I'll remove it. I'll put it on the movement and then let them set the hands, because setting the hands is tricky. I know how to do it. I will do it if I'm not, if I'm not pressed for time, if I have the time to sit down and actually do it. But, watchmaking is a real art, and there are not a lot of really good watchmakers left. I have to say, it's a field where if you can go through the real training and learn the right way and, go through a mentorship with someone who actually knows what they're doing, you can make a tremendous amount of money. But it's all about time. You have to sit down and figure out an hourly rate. And if you're paying, $50 an hour for a watchmaker, you don't have a good watchmaker. You just don't. A really good watchmaker is anywhere from $300 to $500 an hour, depending on the job. If it's a complicated watch, complicated movement, it's a lot more money.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's skilled if that's your thing. It's not my thing. I just, I know how to get in and out of a watch. I'm like, I'm a real noob when it comes to that. But I know my way around it. And if I have to get involved, I will. And it saved me a lot of time and a lot of money. So.
Yeah. No, I understand. So you know enough basic stuff to right, enough basic stuff to be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And to take care of your own pieces or somebody who has an emergency situation, that kind of thing, but not a full breakdown, cleaning.
I'm not going to break down and clean a movement. If I have to pop a movement, switch out a dial, switch out a set of hands, change a crystal, do some gaskets, change a crown, change a tube, that kind of stuff, I'm comfortable with. Once it comes down to, the real servicing of a watch, pulling it apart and doing all that stuff, I'm not equipped for that. I don't have that kind of setup. It's on purpose. I don't want to get into that. It's a lot of time and you really have to know what you're doing. I know my capabilities and limitations when it comes to that. And it's, I don't get involved in anything that I really don't feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, it's and again, just to use an analogy here for those who don't understand what it takes to break down a watch and clean it, that the hang on one second, I don't know why that came up. Okay, to break down a watch and clean it, use a car analogy. You can change a battery out, basically change a tire, you can change maybe a belt. On a car, an alternator, a starter, basically a piece removal, piece return, kind of install. But now you start getting into the transmission, electrical stuff, drop the engine, those kind of things. And you use that analogy for a watch. You can change a crystal, change out the crown, replace a case back, things of that nature. But then you start getting the breakdown where I got to take this thing apart and put it back together. Then now you're talking about, training, basically like going to mechanic school and knowing where everything goes and, put it back together versus make it a Frankenstein and put it back wrong. So it's that's kind of like what you're saying. Basic stuff I can do for the most part. Watch battery changes, a bracelet, all this easy stuff for us. Right.
You know what the key is to having a great watchmaker?
Yeah.
First of all, they have to have a very, very select set of skills. They have to know their way in and out of a watch.
Yeah.
More important, they have to have the original parts if something breaks or if something gets lost. These parts that you're dealing with are tiny, tiny parts. And anything, a wheel, a pallet fork, a balance, something goes wrong with one of those parts, you need to have backup. And that's the problem with a lot of, kind of sketchy watchmakers out there. And they're all over the place. They'll say that they can service a Rolex. I get a lot of this when I sell somebody something, and they'll say to me, well, it's not running the way it's supposed to. You timed it. I'm like, listen, if it bounced around in the box, ship it back to me, we'll regulate it. Oh, my watchmaker here will do it. I'm like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Unless I know the watchmaker personally, and I know what his bench looks like and his setup looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want anybody getting involved in that, because I had a guy, it was 2 weeks ago. I sold somebody a very expensive dial, a very, very expensive dial. I'm going to leave it at that, because if I say the dial, we'll know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the person gets it. He says, oh, I brought it to my watchmaker. He says, this isn't for that movement. I'm like, oh my, he's like, yeah, he's a really good watchmaker. I'm like, you need to double check that, because that watch and that dial go together, like lotta, and like all that stuff. But
Wow.
he back an hour later, he's like, oh, the watchmaker had the movement turned the wrong way. And I'm like,
Right. So let me
oh,
ask you a question
right.
regarding where a lot of your videos are done and work down on 47th Street, right? In the Diamond District in Manhattan. I think a lot of your kind of work is in that. Well, I'm talking about the video stuff. It's kind of
Yes.
like in that area. That's where there's a lot of watches are available, jewelry, diamond rings, all those kind of things for those who are listening to this that are in other parts of the country. This is Manhattan, right? 47th Street in Manhattan has a lot
Correct.
of places where you could buy watches. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Rolex market and
Mm-hmm.
the after what they call gray market. So let me just lay this out for people. You go into a Rolex dealer, a certified Rolex dealer that has the Rolex emblem. They have a backdrop, a wall. They have a Rolex booth, right? So that's a Rolex authorized dealer, not versus someone who sells Rolexes, which is okay too, but there's a difference. You go into a Rolex dealer, right? You go into a Rolex and you say, I want a Rolex. And depending upon which one you want, more than likely they don't have it. You got to be, put on a wait list, because there's a wait list, and even though they say there isn't, there is. Okay, right,
Well,
right, okay, but there is. So you go into a Rolex dealer, and that watch that you want, let's say it's a stainless steel 18 karat gold root beer, which is it has a root beer color, and then the dial, and the what do you call the bezel, and so the 18 karat. That watch you can at a Rolex dealer is about it's about right now $16,000, 16,000 at the dealer. If they get it to you, you pay them. That's what you pay. You go down 47th Street and somebody has that watch and it's aftermarket. Obviously, it's a gray market. You'll end up paying anywhere from $25,000. I mean, it depends. So look at the difference.
yeah.
Rolex dealer, 14, 16K, 47th Street, 25K. Now, talk to us about that aftermarket, that gray market. Why is there, and how these dealers getting these watches, and then they're turning around and reselling them, because that's what they're doing. And that's okay. Capitalism, that's okay. You want to make your money as long as it's legit. Good. So give us a little bit about that background.
Well, you have to understand that Rolex has been selective in the models that they will make available to their clientele for many, many years. Perfect example, when I first started in the business, I wanted a steel Daytona. This is in the mid 90s. And I went to Tourneau. I put my name down on the list. This was 1996. I have still not gotten a call. Okay. Back then, a steel Daytona was about $6,000 and gray market was $7,000. Today, what's going on in the market with regard to the gray area, the gray market, I don't really care for that term.
Okay.
I like
what would you say?
I like the secondary market.
Okay.
Gray market is kind of, it just seems kind of grimy, which, I mean, there's not enough, you can't figure out an adjective that's grimy enough for 47th Street.
It's sketchy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not all that, complicated. If you're going to want to watch tomorrow and you want a Daytona, and I always use the Daytona as the watch, you are not going to get one from your authorized dealer. They have them. Even if they say they don't, they do have them in the back. What they are waiting for you to spend the money on, you can go in there and buy 20 Rolexes, 20 different Rolexes. They're not going to sell you that watch. You go in there and buy $100,000 worth of crappy jewelry. And I'm not talking about Yerman or any of that stuff. Regular jewelry with that markup, you may get one. Today, it's a lot more difficult. Rolex has been very, very, slow in shipping to certain smaller dealers. The bigger dealers like Tourneau or Betteridge, I don't even know if Betteridge is still around, but the main dealers. And Rolex also just bought Bucherer. And Rolex is trying to weed out these smaller independent authorized dealers and just keep it to where they have Rolex boutiques. They're kind of going like Patek is doing. And all of the big major brands are doing that. Is that good for the business? Is it bad for the business? My business has prospered based on Rolex policy for 26 years, and it will never change. The secondary market at this stage of the economy is being challenged right now because prices are down and authorized dealers are starting to come up with watches. Now, they're not coming up with Daytonas so easily. Every once in a while, you get some guy on Reddit or, in one of the groups on Facebook, hey, I got the call. It's like, okay. And then you'll see, I just got a two-tone Sea Dweller. I'm like, oh my God, you went and paid tax, full boat and tax for that watch that you could buy in the gray market for much less. Mm-hmm. Same thing with a two-tone Datejust. Same thing with a steel Datejust. I'm getting calls for the last 4 months mm-hmm. of guys, hey, I just got a steel Datejust from my AD. How much over retail can you pay? I was like, how much under retail would you like to pay when I sell you one? The specialty items, like the root beer, like even the Batman and stuff like that, they're available these days. They're coming available. And it's all based on the intense, I guess it's just the commercialization of buying and selling watches. I'm a little biased. I'm not crazy about any kind of real commercialization. I always liked it when it was a few of us that did our thing and nobody really knew any different. Mm-hmm. We would sell watches all over the world, and you can go get on a plane with wearing, a really nice watch, a vintage watch. I like vintage. I'm a specialist in vintage. I'm an expert in vintage. And nobody would know that you were wearing back then $100,000 watch. Mm-hmm. Today, you walk into Chick-fil-A, and guy behind the counter is like, "Oh wow, nice watch," and it speaks to the commercialization and the popular. It just turned into something that it's not what it was meant to be. Mm. Again, there are two sides to it. I can play devil's advocate and be like, well, Buckley, that's the reason why your business is always doing well, because people understand it and like it and want to get involved. My answer to that is, yeah, but when you get people that everybody wants to be a watch dealer, mm-hmm. the level of quality that you're going to get from people who are doing this for 6 months, a year, is not the kind of quality that you're going to get from a long-term, guy that's been doing this. And I'm not speaking about myself. I'm speaking about other dealers. In general, and that's the problem. People they validate a person's credibility because they've got TikTok followers or because they've got Instagram followers. And I always get the call after the fact. And, it's like an AA thing. Okay. It's like, I don't want the after call. I want the before call. It's like, well, I bought this watch off this guy over here, and now I took it to so-and-so, and he says that the dial doesn't go with this reference. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't. Oh, but I see them on Instagram, and they have a great following, and they're doing all these videos, and they really sound like they know what they're talking about. I'm like, and you're standing there with a watch that, maybe either they didn't know what they were selling, or they're clerks, or they're salespeople, and they're working for, one of the bosses, and they don't really care because they're making their commission. And that's what the business has turned into right now. And thankfully, the market is slowing down. And I hate to say it, it gets rid of a lot of the riffraff. Yeah. And it's a good thing for the market. It flushes out a lot of the people that don't have skin in the game. And I've been through, this is going to be my 4th down market. I remember the first down market that I encountered was right after 9/11. I was fresh in the business. and 9/11 occurred, and the market just absolutely went nuts. And I wasn't young. I was, I don't know, almost 40. And I was new in the business. I was only in the business about 5, 6 years. And, I didn't know what to do, but we learned how to navigate it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to a lot of these folks that are new, especially if they don't have skin in the game, they sell off bad product. And everybody always, I wind up getting, I either put eyes on stuff before it's sold to these people, or unfortunately afterwards.
Yeah.
And right now, we get a lot of calls from people that are like, hey, I bought a watch off this person. I see them on, TikTok or Instagram, and, what's wrong with it? I'm like, where would you like me to start? And then they're like, well, hey, man, buyer beware. If you're going, you need to know who it is that's writing the checks and that's writing the checks. Excuse me. And spend your money wisely. It's like anything else. Used car.
So if you yes, okay. If you're looking for a obviously a real genuine kind of watch, whether it's Rolex, whether it's Omega, and those kind of things, with Patek, Alderman Piguet, whatever you're looking for, IWC, is it two things, well, a couple, but two in general. Is it safe to say, or safe to buy it from, let's say, someone in the Diamond District? And I know you're going to have people there, like in any business, that people are probably selling stuff that they don't necessarily know that it's real, or passing it off as a genuine X watch, but it's really not. It's a knockoff, or it's and the like. So one is that going to a place that has a lot of these dealers, is it likely that you won't buy a Fugazi fake piece? One, two, and if you paying a lot lower than what the watch really is worth, so if a watch watch is worth $8,000, generally speaking, you turn around, the guy wants to sell it to you for $5,000, you're like, okay, red flag. At least for again, people who don't necessarily know this. So where do you go to buy a watch, generally speaking, that it's not going to be a knockoff? Particularly in the Rolex, there's a lot of really good fakes out there, and you kind of know that, how to identify them right away, right?
Well, when you're talking about fake watches, I mean, I get this a lot of. I go on TikTok every morning and I do a live at 7 a.m. every day, no matter what. And we get a lot of folks. It's like, oh, how do you, determine why? How do I know that someone's not going to sell me one of these 1/1 super clones? I'm like, look, 47th Street is a lot of things. Okay, you're not going to find dealers over there across the board. I'm gonna say 98% of the dealers over there are legitimate guys. What you're going to encounter there are the kind of deals that, somebody will put a diamond bezel on a watch. Okay, a bezel is the little round thing that goes around the case. I don't have any cases over here, do I? Okay.
Yeah, it's like right here. Right
yeah,
here.
See, here's the case.
Well,
and they'll put this would have diamonds.
Right.
If this is Rolex, if this is made, which 99% of the stuff that you see out there is not made by Rolex, because if it's made by Rolex, it's super expensive. And you'll find a Datejust with a diamond bezel on it. If you take that watch, even if the watch is 100% legit, the movement's right, the case is right, the rest of the stuff is right. If you take it to Rolex with that diamond bezel on, you will give it to them. They will hand it back to you and say the watch is fake. It is not a Rolex watch. If it's one part or everything, they will just say that. And we encountered this with one of the other dealers on the street, that, TikTok following person. And the problem was the person didn't want to give the money back, which is the worst thing in the world with any kind of business. If you're not going to have customer service where somebody screws up, you maybe you told them it was aftermarket, maybe you didn't. Okay. But if they have a problem and they come back with a letter from Rolex and post it and put it on blast on the internet, you really should have just given them their money back. And it's the type of thing where the dealers on 47th Street get a very bad rap. A lot of the times, like I said, you'll get a lot of newcomers who watch TikTok or watch Instagram, and they're like, oh, wow, look at this. This person's selling all these watches, blah, 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 blah. Well, the person that you're buying it from is not one of the owners. Okay. They're a clerk. They have no skin in the game. Their job is to sell you a watch. And if they're going to sell you a watch, if they're in the business a year and a half, 2 years, they have no clue what they're doing. Okay. They really don't. No matter what you may hear about people, they really don't know. Okay. We know because we see the blowback from a lot of this stuff. And that's why 47th Street gets a bad rap. There are top dealers on 47th Street that I have no problem spending 5-6 figures with. Just sight unseen, I'll make a phone call. Hey, send me this watch. Thank you. Here's the money. I'll send you a check. I'll send you a wire. When you're an owner, it's totally different. It's a different dynamic.
It's your business. It's your business.
A lot of people who are buying these watches, they're younger people and sometimes older people. Let's not just blame it on the millennials. I have my son is a millennial. It's like you can't.
So's mine.
You there just not do your homework. And doing your homework is not, checking out Instagram, TikTok. Go see if there's a registered LLC. See if they have any bad, if they're not on one of those like scammer sites or anything like that. There are guys like that are scamming people. But 47th Street, for the most part, is a pretty, if you're never on the street, it's very intimidating. If you go there and walk the street with somebody who actually knows who's good and who's not, it's very easy. And you could buy anything you want on that street.
So John, on 2 issues as we can wrap this up, two questions for you. Sure. One is if someone wants to, in the audience listening, wants to buy a particular watch, whatever it is, Rolex, AP, Omega, that kind of thing, and they want to, get their hands on it, they want to buy it now, right? They want to buy it and then want to wait, right? The immediate gratification. Where can they go to get a recommendation of, you should go see, let's say, Yasa. I'm sorry, man, the guy. Yeah, Rex, right? Is it Rex?
Yeah, Rex Watch.
Right, Rex. Right. As an example, he's getting a free plug, right? So you get, that's my Yasa, right? So and at Rex Watches, for example, in the Diamond District, where can somebody go to say, okay, go to these 3 or 4 dealers, see what their inventory looks like, see what their watches that they have in stock. And then, if you buy something from them, you can feel rest assured that you're going to get something legit.
What we did,
we
started before all of this TikTok stuff. Yeah, we created chat groups. So we started a chat group. Once we caught fire on social media. It's myself and the Vookum account. Right. Once we caught fire, we started a pay-per chat group, which is for the most part so that we don't have to source watches, because I can't source watches for people. I don't have it in me. That is not what I do. Okay.
It's all the time too.
It's honestly, I'm a wholesale guy. Okay. I deal with my regulars. I deal with very, very select people, collectors. And for me to do across the board retail business, it doesn't work for me. So we started a chat group. It's $20 a month. It's under the Vookum flag. You go to vookum.com, and for $20 a month, you can, if you want to stay for 1 month, great. It's buy, sell, trade, legit check, get references. We do it all right there for $20 a month. There are other I pay for chat groups. I pay thousands to be in very specific vintage chat groups, all over the world. And why we did this was, because we want to refer people to good people who they can feel confident buying a watch, a 6-figure watch, a 5-figure watch. And all of the same guys that you see in the videos are there. Yasha, Little Eddie, all of our guys. That's our network. We are very, very selective at this point as to who we are putting on camera with us, showing our deals, because we deal with sponsors, and we deal with, we're dealing with a whole bunch of, all kinds of different stuff with regard to a reality show and, agents and all of this, crazy, Hollywood type stuff that, we can get into that at another time. But the main goal is to make sure that people are safe when they're buying. I go up there. I was on my TikTok this morning, and one of the guys that I referred to, Little Eddie, who's Swiss Made Corp, is up there. And I'm like, hey, look, it's your new best friend. He's like, yeah, I just spent, $75,000 in the last week and a half. And I'm like, good for you. I don't care. I don't need to make money on every deal. I'd rather that the customer is served, they deal with it, they're set up to deal with it. And you know what? It's fine with me. I mean, that said, we're opening a retail location, but that's another story too.
Yeah, no, yeah, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
So that's thank you for answering that question about legit vendors on 47th Street. And obviously the vast majority are, and then getting referrals, being part of the Vookum group for
Mhm.
$20 a month, where you can, get
Yeah.
referrals and that kind of stuff, which is great. If you're gonna spend,
Yeah.
$10,000-15,000 on a watch and you wanna, get at least some feedback, it's a low cost entry to get some recommendations, right?
And
So
you
yeah.
leave. I have guys that'll come. I tell them, look, they're like, John, I need this watch. I'm like, here's what you do. Join the group. Pay the $20. Tag me in your want to buy. I will tag everybody there that you should go see. And then you
Boom.
leave after you buy your watch. That's great. It's
Done.
$20. And I think that
It's
what we
worth it.
did there was
Yeah.
really make it safe for a lot of people in a very, very treacherous space, and that was our goal, because I'm all about making sure that the customer is happy. If you look online and try to Google where I had a bad deal, you will never find it, because if there's something wrong, we make it right.
Yeah.
We will give a
Awesome.
refund if something's not right. We will change out. We will do whatever it takes to make the customer happy. And what we did with the $20 a month with the chat group is put everybody in our network. And I think that was one of the best things that we've done over the past year and change.
That's great. So the last two questions. One is the opportunities you see in the marketplace, given that there's beginning to slow down, right? There's things are slowing down a bit, meaning that there probably, and this is my opinion, there's probably going to be some watches available at better deals because people are kind of holding on to money because of the economy, the interest rates, all that kind of stuff. They kind of say, I'm going to put off that purchase of 15K, 20K. Now, the top end of the spectrum, people are still spending, right? But even them, some of them are pulling back too, from what I've read. So, where are the opportunities that you see in the marketplace? And the last question is, tell us about the show you're going to have. You have a show coming up, and I'm assuming that show is open to the public. I'm assuming, okay. So, and there are going to be vendors there selling and buying, trading, okay, in New Jersey. So, anybody in the New York Metro, you want to see this guy, there you go. You want to see this guy right here and see some reputable vendors and buy watches. Talk a little bit about that, where it's going to be and the date and time. So two things: opportunities in the marketplace right now. What do you see? And secondly, the actual show coming up.
Well, opportunities. I have never been one. I've had a booth on 47th Street for many, many years. I mean, 20 years, up until 15 years, up until COVID. And our lease was up, fortunately, just as COVID hit.
Perfect time.
And going back, yeah, it was perfect timing. We then had, we have chat groups and things like that, like we were just speaking about. The last 6 months, Tyler, who is Vookum, and my son, James, who's the camera people, we're partners in the Vookum media company. And they wanted to open up a retail store here in Jersey. And I was always against it. I have never been the guy that wants to sit behind a showcase and deal with the public. It's not what I do. You guys want to deal with the public, deal with the public. And they kind of worked on me for a little bit, and I gave in. And we took over an old bank building right in Monmouth County. And it's all based on what's going to happen in the market. The market is about to go through some really, really difficult times. And my position, whenever the market shifts, I'm a buyer. I buy. That's what I do. That is my forte. And I'm really good when it comes to authentication and being an expert and being Buckley and doing all this kind of stuff. But when push comes to shove, I know how to buy and I know how to navigate a down market. And we're setting up over there pretty much to buy up as much inventory as we possibly can. I can always sell. Selling is the easiest part of this business. When you buy something for the proper price and you sell it for the right price, you could sell all day long. I have tons of stock. I could sell it immediately if I want to, because I bought it at the right price. Yes, there are exceptions to the rule when I pay too much. But I always say that if I didn't lose on at least 5-10% of everything that I bought, I'm not buying enough. So I lose on a lot of stuff, but it doesn't matter because it cost averages and we just move stuff along. What was the other question that
you say opportunities and the show. Talk about the show, where the show is, how long it is. You can buy, sell, trade, vendors. Talk about that. There you go.
The show is in Old Bridge, New Jersey, and you can get a table if you're a dealer. If you're just a person coming in, you can buy tickets at the door, or you can
How
go to
much are the
event.
tickets?
The tickets are $50 for early admission, $40 for general admission. It's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And last time we had, wow, 400 people. It's not, we have some excellent security. We have a very good partner in promotion. We're dealing with WWT, also Worldwide Traders.
Yep.
And we have, security is paramount. The IWJG and a lot of these shows right now, they have lots of security problems because they're not, they're not really looking at it from a security standpoint. We are. And people are safe when they come to our shows. And if anybody had been to our show, you would know that. And it's an extension of the group. It's buy, sell, trade, and legit check. And just come and hang out. It's
October
I know
22nd, right?
It's October 22nd, Sunday, this coming Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be great. And we have a lot of tables sold. We have a lot of, pre-order tickets sold, and we're going to have a line at the door. And we just feel that New Jersey has been historically underserved when it comes to open to the public shows. The only real public shows are, the Miami Beach Antique Show and
NAWCC. They do an open part.
Public. You have to be a member of NAWCC. This is anybody can come in.
Okay.
Anything at all. IWJG is $500 to walk through the door, and you have to be a vetted member. You have to have references. So we made it open to the public. Nobody wanted to do this. We've done it, and now everybody is trying to jump on board with us to partner with us. But we're doing it real slow. We're taking it easy. We have a lot on our plate right now with the new location. We have a build out. We have all kinds of. We're going to set up an exchange in the bank building that we acquired, and we're going to have maybe 5 to 7 trusted dealers that we work with, or satellites of some of the dealers that we work with in New York, so that people can come and get the experience without having to go through all of the 47th Street. Right. I 47th Street, but you know what I'm saying? People are intimidated. They don't know where to go. You're going to know if you go under the Vookum flag, and you're going to know that you'll get a good deal. You'll get a fair shake. And that's all we really want.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Well, we were talking here with John Buckley of Vookum, managing partner and owner of Tuscany Rose, regarding his trajectory from side hustle to full-time hustle in the watch game, and covered a lot of points here regarding the industry, where to buy, what to look for, just be cost, Rolex dealers, things of that nature, a lot of stuff. And there's a great show coming up on Sunday in New Jersey. If you're in that market, that metro area, if you want to see some good watches, nice watches, buy, sell, trade, that kind of thing. And listen, with a $50, I think, early entry and $40 general public, you're not going to get a lot of people there who do not want to be there. They want to be there for a purpose, and they're paying entry.
We thought that out.
Yeah, I know. I caught it. So it's not a $5 entry. It's $40. I'm going in there looking for something. I want to get an appraisal. I want to trade something. So it's good. That's good. Good for you guys. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for the work that you're doing to keep the industry, reputable, clean, and sharing your knowledge on IG and TikTok and Facebook, and keep on doing the work that you're doing. Obviously, you have a passion for it and the skill for that. Which is great. I'm glad you're enjoying what you're doing. And making a living out of it, which is bonus. That's good for you. Yeah, and thanks so much for being on the show.
You're very welcome, and thank you so much. If there's anything else that you ever need, please let us know.
No, we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.